Wilson.
Molly Jong-Fast.
War, what is it good for?
Well, it's good for little Marco to have the viceroyship of Caracas and to
But
apparently pay off one of Marco's largest donors, who's in this deal to own all the oil fields out there. So what
so
what
what
what shocks you about this? It should be nothing.
okay, so let's talk about this. Saturday morning, right after New Year's, it
Mhm.
is a sleepy morning. We wake up to find that Donald Trump has kidnapped the president, and it's a kidnapping, right? Because even though, I mean, it's basically a kidnapping. You tend not to be okay to kidnap foreign leaders and their wives and take them.
We do it so rarely, and it happens so rarely in the world that
We've
all I
done it
can say.
before, though.
Yeah, we have, but Noriega was although they pretend it's the same deal, Noriega was actually a different deal because there was a treaty obligation in Panama. Long story short,
Right.
he here's
Panama's
something we
different.
here's something we know at this point in the game. Snatching a foreign leader should not surprise anybody. We can do it. We have the greatest military in the universe, and we are
Right.
able to do magical things like that. That, however, if the story of Venezuela is a ladder, that's the first rung on the ladder. That's the easy one. Now, since Trump has basically said we're doing this for the oil, how do people think this is gonna go? We left the Maduro regime in charge. It's still being run by the same people. The police, secret police are still there. Military is still there. The Chavismo brute squads are still there. Nothing's changed. We basically told the people of Venezuela, "Hey, we took the big guy, but everything else is the same except now we own your oil fields and we're running your country." It's gonna go great. We're gonna be greeted as liberators.
So, one of the things that the New York Times had a really excellent article about how they had war gamed it out,
Mhm.
and every scenario ended with fucking disaster. Discuss.
Yep. No one should be surprised that a country that's been in the grip of this Chavismo, Bolivarian, revolutionary, commie kleptocracy for a long, long time, so probably for close to 20 years now. Nobody should be surprised when they wake up in the morning and don't say, "Wow, you know what I'm really looking forward to is American democracy and pluralism." Anybody who thinks that this is going to be some sort of magical transformative moment when we do not have any intention or capacity to change what's happening there is on crack. This is madness. And and
But
I
also
let me give you a
democracy.
scenario. There, you
Yeah.
notice the one question they won't answer? The question is, are there going to be American boots on the ground? You notice Marco was
Well,
asked that on
Trump
the
said
Sunday show.
yes.
Trump said yes, but the rest of them are like, "Humana, humana, humana, humana."
Right, right, right.
Okay, so let's say we decide we're gonna put American contractors, into the oil fields to rebuild the oil fields and the
Which you're
refineries,
gonna have to do
which,
because
just so folks know, in the world, in the entire global oil and gas industry, there are only 2 countries that really have the engineering spec and the ability. It's the Americans and the Brits. So,
yeah.
we're gonna be sending Americans down there. And what happens when they start getting kidnapped or shot at or disappeared or sabotage starts happening? What happens then? Oh, we have to escalate. We have to put more boots on the ground. We have been to this fucking rodeo. I say this as a neocon. We have been to this rodeo and learned painful, painful, painful lessons not to do it this way.
Right,
But if you
right.
compare the ad hocery and the slapdashery of our entrance into Afghanistan and Iraq, this is an order of magnitude more sloppy. This is like shit written on
Right.
the back of an envelope somewhere in
Right.
Mar-a-Lago
So
compared
I
to a
think
encyclopedic set of plans for a peaceful transition to democracy in Iraq.
I I got so excited that you said this that I dropped my pen. Let the record show I have dropped my pen. So what you're saying here, which and you are someone who has spent some time in Iraq. So and you know those people, and what you're saying here is that
Iraq no, Venezuela is the Iraq of Vietnam's, okay?
right.
It's not gonna go like they
It's
think
not
it's
gonna
gonna
go well.
go.
And why is it not gonna go well? Because I think it's important. So one of the things that I wanted to go back to and I think that there's not been enough time spent on this, okay,
Right.
is that in 1991, there was an action that caused the first Gulf War, and I don't think that anyone is remembering. It may not have really caused it, but it was the excuse for it,
Oh, no, it
which
caused
was
it. I mean, it
right,
caused it. Um,
Kuwait.
yeah, the Iraqi army, the Republican Guard stormed into Kuwait. It is explicable that our allies in the Gulf and around the globe all said, "Holy crap, this isn't good."
Right.
That was a
And then
legitimate moment.
and the
The idea that
UK, Europe,
yeah,
remember? Go on, go on.
no, we built a global coalition, and nations from
Tony
around the
Blair,
world
yeah.
jumped in and said, "This will not stand." Now, Donald Trump's initial excuse for blowing up all these Venezuelan fishing boats is, "Oh, the fentanyl, the fentanyl, the fentanyl." Well,
Right, right.
you notice the indictment of Maduro doesn't mention fentanyl?
No,
You know why?
because
Because
there's no
even this
fentanyl,
clownish administration recognizes that the freaking fentanyl comes from Mexico.
and also China, right?
Yeah, well, the precursors come from China, but it's smuggled in from Mexico. There is nothing going on here other than, as what Donald Trump mentioned 21 times in the Mar-a-Lago press conference, "the oil,
I
the
I wanna
oil."
I wanna go back to Gulf War 2.0 because
Yes.
that also was preceded by 9/11.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
talk us through that
So, we had
because
a
I feel like it's so important that they were reasons or there was some yeah,
okay,
go on.
I mean, not to spend too many hours on this, we
But I
had
think the
very
history is
flawed, very
important.
bad, wrong intelligence
Right.
that
WMDs.
many people were inclined to believe because of
Right.
the intense trauma and paranoia
After 9/11.
after 9/11. We had bad intelligence, particularly from one source named Curveball, who turned out to be a fabulous and a lying liar who lies. And Curveball said Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. There was an inclination inside the government to believe that intelligence, even against intelligence that was contradictory to it.
Right.
That led to the conflation of Iraq and Al Qaeda. We invaded Iraq. Of course, we were successful in the initial invasion. But as I said to somebody yesterday or today, who said, "Man, you know, I hate Trump, but my neocon heart was beating today." I'm like, "Dude, this is 2003. Remember how we felt in 2006 when the shit had well and truly hit the fucking fan."
We didn't get out for another decade
Well, you know what?
of the region
This is the
anyway.
problem of going in and doing regime change when you don't offer something based on values. Okay. And we're doing that in Venezuela. We're not saying we're going to help Venezuela improve the lives of its people or bring democracy or liberty or prosperity. We're saying, fuck you. You get to keep the Maduro regime without Maduro. You get to drill for oil and give us the money while we run your country. Anyone who wakes up and says, "I'm America first, I'm MAGA, I don't want to do nation building, none of that," and thinks this is this is the way, this is the path, this is your neo-isolationism playing out. Trump fell for it again award, edition 9072
Yeah.
for these people.
Yeah. It strikes me that there are not a lot of ways out now. Okay. So we're
No.
seeing Trump a lot of saber rattling now, talking
Uh-huh.
about Greenland. And certainly there's anxiety that that will be his next step. But I can't imagine that he gets out and just pivots to something else. But maybe he does. But talk us
No,
through
well, I mean,
what
look,
you think.
this weekend, I was in a long text chat with a bunch of my Miami friends who
Who are Venezuelan, some of them, right?
Cubans, Venezuelans, and some of them, I would say that a lot of them were passionately MAGA initially, and now are like hands in the air, like, "Okay, whatever, he's crazy."
Right.
But now they're like, "Well, maybe he'll take out Cuba next, and maybe he'll take out Colombia next." We do not have a national capacity to deal with the basket cases of those 3 economies by any stretch of the imagination, and but yet that seems to be what is
Right.
the desired outcome here is we're going to go and we're going to do a sweeping regime change through
all
excuse
of
me,
Latin America.
throughout Latin America.
Yeah.
You know what? God bless them for ambition, but this is dumb.
So let's just talk the political implications of this because
Sure.
obviously this is it feels like a shit sandwich already. But what are the political implications? So you have January 1st, a lot of more health insurance premiums went way, way
Yep.
up.
Yep.
Trump ran on affordability. Inflation is still a real and serious problem. We have a trade war with China. We have all of this underlying trade stuff. The real tariff numbers, we discovered really good reporting in the New York Times, are lower
Yep.
than what Trump world has said, about
They're not
half of what
$74 trillion, and we're not gonna
they're
all get a you mean we're not gonna all get a tariff a tariff check after we get our Doge checks?
right, exactly. The Doge. So Doge was a scam. Tariffs are not as bad as Trump is advertising them to be. What do you think? Like, what is the political? I mean, he's hurtling towards the midterms. They've spent billions
Right.
of dollars of ICE. The deficit is as big as it's ever going to be. Like, do you think? I mean, did they overplay their hand?
Yeah, by a lot. Here's the thing. The economic fantasy that has been empowered by getting rid of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they're just making numbers up.
Right,
This is all vibe casting. You know, you had the president of Bank of
right.
America the other day say, you know, "An independent Fed is necessary, independent data, we need it." They're not going to tell fewer lies going forward about the economy, but people
Mm-hmm.
we are in a very bad job situation in the economy. This
Mm-hmm.
health insurance crisis is about to smack Trump's voters in the face with a, you know, baseball bat. None of this is going to go none of the economic stuff is gonna go smoothly, and that's when you end up with mistakes in other domains causing greater political impact for the president's party. 2006, the Republicans got blown the fuck out, not only because the war was unpopular, but because the economy was bad. So
Mm-hmm.
Trump is setting up the Republican Party for a historic wipeout in 2024 2026,
It's
excuse me.
It's funny because I think so much about, like, George Conway, new congressional candidate,
Yes,
my congressional candidate in New York
yes,
12 or New York 2 or whatever I live in, said that the only way that Trump will, in fact, eventually destroy the Republican Party, and that
yes.
wasn't true in 2020,
No, it wasn't
really.
true in 2020 because there was still a little bit of pre-COVID, there was still
Right.
quite a bit of economic optimism
Mhm.
in the country, where that is now no longer present in the country at
Mhm.
all.
At all.
And there was a sense, I think, of that image Trump had that was so deeply embedded in America's psyche that he was a good business dealer, a good negotiator, a good businessman, all that crap, that nobody now buys that at all.
Yeah.
So, I think we've ended up in a situation where the Republican Party has gotten more obedient to Trump, more
Mhm.
locked into Trump, and they have fewer options for escaping him. They don't there's not really a good pathway now where they can wake up in the morning and go, "No, no, that I don't know that guy." They're
Right.
stuck.
Right,
They
right,
are
right.
and on the Venezuela question, Molly, you know, you had Mike Lee initially like, "This is unconstitutional, and 3 hours later, he's like, "Yes, master, I love what you did in Venezuela." I
It
mean,
ends up
all of them are sucking up on this thing like madmen.
it ends up being there are very few members of the Republican Party who have sort of said no to Trump, and I think they are worth highlighting at this moment. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie
Yep,
continues to be a pretty loud voice. You've got
yep.
Justin Amash, but the
Rand
people like
Paul off and
Rand
on.
Paul, right? But the people that have really, Tom Cotton has never not loved a war. Mike Lee is like a pretend libertarian.
He's a pretend pocket constitution guy.
Right.
You know, during the Tea Party era, those guys, "I always carry the Constitution because that's all I care about." Okay, sure.
But here's a question for you. And I think this is an important tension that I'd like you to talk through in our last couple minutes. It feels like Donald Trump is getting increasingly crazy and that he will not stop until some branch of our government stops him.
Correct.
So, what does that look like? I mean, how far does Donald Trump go before the Supreme Court is like, no?
I am waiting with no sense of patience or anticipation for the Supreme Court to find some courage and integrity. Every time I have counted on anything from them, it has turned out to be a crashing disappointment. They don't have the guts to say no to the guy.
So if that happens, and
Yeah,
if the Supreme Court at some point they make a calculation, either the Supreme Court does or the Congress does, that says
right.
something to the effect of
Fuck
we
you,
have to
stop.
well, also, like, he's polling at 20%. He's
Sure.
polling at there's a number where everyone stops doing what he wants.
I don't think
Yes?
it's 20%. I think it's 26, 27%.
Right.
We've already seen the
We're at
beginnings of the
30
MAGA crack up
something.
in the low
Yeah.
30s, in the mid 30s,
Yeah.
let's say. We've already seen that starting to fracture. Once it's in that 20-degree range, or 25-degree range, 27-degree range, let's call it, at that point, obeying Trump is a political death sentence. We're not there yet. And all the incentive structures inside the MAGA media universe, the MAGA networks like Fox and Newsmax and CBS are increasingly boom,
That's
snuck
right.
it in.
That's right. That's
They are increasingly going to have to play that tension. Do we want Trump to attack us and be angry with us for telling the truth,
right.
or do we want to try to, you know, pacify him and not cover the people betraying him? Now, Trump's political team, they make book on everybody. They're always monitoring every Republican. At some point, these guys in the 26 or 28 seats that are gonna be in play, they're gonna have to make a moment after their primaries, most likely, where they say, "No, sir." And Trump has a hissy fit, and they try to convert on that and say, "I'm an independent Republican. Yay, go me." I don't think it helps him in the end, Molly. I think it still drags him. I think he's still dragging them under the water. I don't think there's any world in which they get away clean.
It is wild, and you would not wanna be any of these people right now. Who is it worse
No.
to be? One last question. Who do you think is worse off at this moment? John Thune or Mike Johnson?
Oh, Mike Johnson. Mike
Because
Johnson
he's just
by
gonna get
far.
fired.
He's gonna
Yeah.
get fired. Look, let's just say hypothetically the Republicans somehow cling to power.
It's not gonna happen in the House. There's
It's
no
not gonna
way.
happen in the House, but the haters, even in his own party, Mike Johnson is hated.
Yeah.
He's got a majority, but they look at him as a guy who has
MTG
led
is
them.
out.
Yeah, MTG is out tomorrow.
Yeah.
RIP MTG, who, by the way, I don't know if you saw her this morning, or that Sunday morning, where she sounded like a rational human again.
Oh, it's
Like,
crazy. It's
it
crazy.
look, I'd rather have her in charge of the Republican Party right now and in her current iteration than Mike Johnson, but that ain't never gonna happen. She's now she's now an apostate, and once you're out, you're out.
Rick Wilson,
Molly Jong-Fast.
will you come back?
You know I will.